Crush Your Mountain Wellness. I am so thrilled to have you with me today because if you know anything about what I like to do and how I work with my clients, I really stress some form of exercise, some form of movement in order to build muscle, in order to move your body and keep the circulation going, in order to get your BDNF, your brain-derived neurotrophic factor, moving in your mind to even keep your mind, your brain healthy. And so it's so important. But so many people say to me, well, Henry, I don't have the time to exercise. I've got kids, I've got a wife, I've got a husband, I've got stuff to do, I've got a career. How do I get to the point where I'm actually doing some sort of exercise? So I thought it would be important. And I thought it would be a cool thing to have a time management expert who also specializes in exercise and physical therapy to join us today and talk a little bit about it. Let me tell you about Mr. Ryan Dunphy. He's a wee bit Irish, I might add, just a wee bit, but he's from New Jersey. And with a passion for nature's rejuvenating embrace and a knack for maximizing every moment, Ryan embodies the synergy between outdoor adventure and personal well-being. As we dive into this episode, we're going to talk about a few things. He's going to share with us some invaluable insights on how effective time management can transform your life and elevate your health. You'll be able to understand ways, simple things to do in order to improve yourself just by exercise and consistency, finding the time. His background is in health and exercise science with a focus on wellness and lifestyle management. He spent time working in the corporate fitness world, helping stressed out financial professionals, and then went to serve patients after cardiac rehab and physical therapy. So this is a guy that's got the experience, he's got the knowledge, and he's got the energy to get it done. And he has the insight to help us to move forward and crush our mountains. Let's welcome Ryan Dunphy. Welcome.
Woo! Thank you, Henry. Ooh, what a gift. I love that intro. Your check's in the mail.
Thank you very much. Show's over. Thank you, folks, for coming.
All right. That's wonderful.
Listen, man, we talked, we understand how you help individuals in terms of helping them with their cardiac issues, helping them with stress management. But, the biggest challenge is for people that I work with, many of my clients, they literally hate exercise. Sometimes I just tell them something in terms of, doing a little bit, and they kind of roll their eyes. So let's understand the purpose of movement and resistance training, first of all. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Henry, I want to celebrate you for the vocabulary there. There's a lot of people that get hung up on the word exercise, and you're using the word movement as well. That's something that's been really, really helpful with the people that I've worked with over the years, because we're going to paint some broad brush strokes here, but there's a lot of people that maybe they've had a bad experience with exercise, or they associate that word with something that hurts, or something that's a chore, or something that doesn't feel great, or it's I have to do this kind of thing versus I want to do this. But all exercise is planned movement. And exercise as a word is still pretty new. We figure maybe in the last 100 years, it's really come into common vocabulary, but it's all about movement. So I encourage everybody is to figure out something that you enjoy that you can move your body with. Maybe it's walking and talking with a friend. Maybe it's riding a bicycle. Maybe it's hiking in the woods. Maybe it's basketball, or pickleball is a huge thing right now. It's popping up in all parts of the country, and I think it's super cool because you're moving through all the different planes and you're having fun while you're doing it. Or, if you live in an area where those options aren't available and you do choose a fitness center, make it enjoyable. Pair the essential with the enjoyable. Listen to your favorite podcast while you're there. Watch The Office again for the 15th time. Do something that's enjoyable. Do it with a friend. Have an exercise buddy. There's so many different ways that I encourage people just to make it easier, make it a bit of fun, because you're much more likely to stick with it and focus on movement. I know plenty of people that have never set foot in a fitness center, and they're some of the healthiest people I've ever met. They might be working in construction, or they may be working in something where they're physically active all day. But for a lot of us that are sitting in a chair for 8 or more hours a day, we need to plan some of that movement.
I'll tell you something. What I have found to be the case with a lot of individuals is they don't quite have the time. But I want to circle back to something you mentioned, because this is something that folks don't quite get. When you mentioned the pickleball, you mentioned the various planes
Yes.
of movement. So let's unpack that for those that don't know what that means, because the average person, they get up and they just go about their day. They don't quite
Yeah.
think about how their body is moving through various, you might say, dimensions
Yes.
of weight mass and how that
Yeah.
affects the body. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so if we think about walking, let's say walking on a treadmill, because that's a fixed direction. So you're walking straight forward, your legs are moving front to back, your arms are moving front to back, and that's great that you're moving. And those impact exercises like the treadmill are very good for bone density. But a lot of times in life, we're going a little bit left, we're going a little bit right, maybe we're going backwards sometimes. So it's important to move through those different planes, because I can't tell you how many people I've talked to over the years that they walk every single day, but bending and twisting, they get their toothbrush, they throw their low back out. So we have to be doing twisting, bending, turning, direction change, all these different things. When we think about something like snow shoveling, how different that is from walking on the treadmill.
Now you're speaking my language when you mentioned snow shoveling. Okay,
Okay, yeah.
okay. I grew up doing that. We're in the midst of, let's just we're in the midst of some sort of, okay, not to step on any political perspective. We are in the midst of some sort of weather differentiation, if you will.
Okay,
Things a little bit seem to not have the snow that we used to have. Now up north, we get it, but we get it hard, but it doesn't last as long. But
right,
I remember back in the day, okay, back in the day, they weren't as nice as they are now. Okay, the snow came, you were still expected to be in school, and you had to shovel the path. You have to shovel a little bit out the driveway. You have to shovel the
right,
sidewalk in front of you. And that took us off. There were people that had heart attacks
right,
because they had not done this. They had not taken care of themselves. And then they go out to shovel the snow, these poor people, and they wind up falling in the snow due to a heart attack. You see,
right,
or walking on the ice and not even being able to keep your balance.
right.
You see, all those things are important. So when we think about moving through those various planes, we think about the bending forward, twisting, and odd angles that we normally may not do, but we need to be in the position to do them.
Right. Yeah, yeah, it's so important to train on all those different planes and have a variety of your different movements and exercises. Even when we think about some of the strength machines in a fitness center, some are straight out this way, some are up to the side, some you're doing this, some you're twisting with. I love the cable machines. I encourage a lot of people to do those in a safe way, and not overdo it the first couple times you're doing it. Absolutely. But yeah, the snow shoveling, that's a very big thing, and I think it's important to be active and also pace yourself. I took my son out for a hike yesterday. It was a beautiful Sunday morning, and we had a chance to hike around a reservoir in northwestern New Jersey. Yes, we have cool reservoirs in New Jersey. It's more than just Newark Airport. For everybody that's never been to New Jersey, we are the Garden State. I live in Pennsylvania now. We're just over the border, but it's so important to do some of those different things. And when I see my son, climb up and jump up on this stump and then jump off of this and go over here and do all that, I think that's so beneficial. I know that that's so beneficial for people to do all those different kind of movements, because when we think about when we were kids, it's, we fall off the top of the jungle gym and we, brush the mulch off and we keep going. And now for some people, when we're adults, it's, oh my goodness, I slept wrong. We gotta move.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So here's something else, though. People that just don't have that time to go out and hike,
Sure.
to go to the gym and use the cable machines, many times, and then too, For a lot of people, that's not even fun. It's in
Right.
the minds it registers as some sort of work. So, what can we do to help individuals to do something at home and make it, number one, easy, accessible, as well as fun?
Right. I love that. And this could be a 4 hour episode. I love that we could totally go deep here. So I will try to stay as actionable as possible. So one statement and one question I would love for everybody to walk away from if you take one thing from this episode. Number one, time is the only finite resource. Everything else is a variable. We all have about 16 hours a day. And it's what do we do during those 16 hours? How do we do it?
I love that.
And the question that I want you to ask yourself on a regular basis is simply, am I bringing the right energy to the right activities? Because I think a lot of us have one or potentially both of those wrong in any given moment. Of, am I bringing the right energy to the right activities? Am I showing up rested every day or am I showing up tired every day? Am I hydrating with good, clean water, which is the number one contributor to the amazing life expectancy that we have right now is access to clean water. That's the number one thing. So keep your hydration up. Am I eating real foods? Am I eating enough of them? Not too much, not too little. And have I moved my body? Those four things. Have I moved? Am I am I hungry? Do I need to move? Do I need to take a nap or am I thirsty? Think about some of those things. And we touched on children for anybody that's a parent or interacts with kids or everybody was a kid at one point. Think about when a kid is tired or a kid is hungry or a kid is antsy and hasn't moved enough. How is that kid going to be able to focus? How is that kid going to act? How is that kid going to receive things? How is that person going to work as a member of a team? Are you bringing the right energy to the right activities? And I think a lot of us, we focus a lot of our attention on things that we can't control and everything that's wrong. And our brain is an incredible operating system, but it's always looking for problems. It's there to keep us safe, not to keep us happy. But if we actively shift to, let me focus on what I can control, which is nice and small in a good way, and what can I influence and what's going right, everything changes, whether it's our health, our happiness, our success. It's time is the only finite resource. Everything else is a variable. And am I bringing the right energy to the right activities? That is so, so vital because let's be honest, a lot of us, there's stuff that wastes our time. And some of that stuff is when we're tired or when we're hungry or when we're doing this, that, and the next thing. So planning some intentional time for movement or planning some intentional time to go to the grocery store, to buy real foods. Something as simple as, hey, do you need to go buy a lunchbox or have one delivered to your house in 2 days or less? Sometimes it's those very simple actions that prevent 1,000 other decisions where I know that I have my lunchbox, I have my giant Ryan-sized ice pack that can last me all day long. And I know that when I pack plenty of healthy foods in the morning, I'm not going to McDonald's for a Shamrock Shake. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I'm rested. I have real food. I'm moving. So as it pertains to scheduling in some movement for your day, I encourage everybody to figure out what works for you. And, don't wait for the perfect plan. Start something today. Maybe it's a walk in the morning before everybody else gets up. Maybe it's you have time at your lunch break and instead of playing Angry Birds, you can, go for a walk outside or walk in the stairwell of your corporate office. There's so many different options. Or maybe you're a late night kind of person where, you want to go get in the pool at 8 o'clock at night. So figure out what works for you, figure out a time that works for you and understand that may fluctuate a little bit. Be willing to adapt because trying my best because there's so many different rabbit holes we could go down here. When we think about, as we're recording this episode, we're almost through March of 2024. And when you think about everybody that made a New Year's resolution and how packed those fitness centers were the first 2 weeks of January versus now, everybody always says it's either Valentine's Day or the Super Bowl that does them in. But those are 2 days. Just like at the end of the year, when we think about all the eating holidays that we have, as soon as that Halloween candy comes out, and it's Thanksgiving, and it's Christmas, and it's New Year's, and it's cookies, and it's this, that, and the next thing. And hey, every once in a while, it's okay. But that doesn't mean you have to eat garbage for 3 months straight. We're talking about 3 days: Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, 4 days. We don't have to turn that into a 4-month buffet. It's okay to have it every once in a while, but don't stretch it out. So I say this to say, just stay on the wagon. The people that I've seen that focus on perfection are the ones that fall off the hardest.
And I'll tell you, I get it. One of the things I try to do also is encourage my clients, okay, what things can you incorporate in your daily activity just to do something simple?
Yep.
The key is really simplicity and consistency.
Yes.
So as a time management, you probably would see where a person can say, okay, he's up in the morning and you've got to, of course, we're going to do your morning ablutions and brush your teeth, wash your face, or what have you.
Right.
But now, can a person do just some deep knee bends just when you get up?
Absolutely.
Can they do that? Or hey, if we have a baby, if we have little kids, to me, I know kids can wear you out. I love my grandkids. I love my grandbabies. And so when I get with them, I'm running all over the place.
Yes.
Dad cannot keep up with me. My son cannot keep up with me. And with them. Okay. But the idea is have that time. You're getting your exercise. And then when we talk about just simple things, grocery shopping or what have you, okay, bringing some of that food home, especially if you're going if you're doing the real food, the whole food, that 5-pound bag of flour, okay, a 5-pound bag of sugar, but I hope you're staying away from sugar, to be honest, okay? But if you have those heavy bags, sack of potatoes, what have you, make those things your weights. Simple things, just grabbing that pack of potatoes, as it were, and just lifting it up and down a few times.
Yep.
So finding ways of doing things, just simple ways of doing things without going overboard. You don't even have to go to Walmart to pick up some dumbbells or plate again sports or any other area. I'm not saying not to do that. If that's where you want to go, great. I love it. I've got dumbbells. That's what I use. But the idea is for those of you that don't have the time to spend at a gym, I don't go to a gym. I haven't been to a gym a couple of years before COVID.
Sure.
But what I decided to do, when I decided to take on my own personal diabetes diagnosis, I decided that I was going to build muscle consistently, but simply. So I worked out what worked for me. I also use that for my clients, and I share with them how they can do things themselves. If it's men who really don't mind the dumbbells, we ease into it, you see? So again, when you talk in terms of taking time, what things should they think about in terms of being on board with managing their time,
right,
to get things done in terms of just building health? Okay, let's create an even more narrow circumstance for it. Okay, more narrow circumstance.
Sure.
Okay, we have a working mom. She's got to pick up the kids. She's got to bring them home. She's got to go to work. She has a career that's just all over the place, growing leaps and bounds. She's stressed, so she gets up and she's got to, in her mindset, get the kids up, get the kids out, get to daycare, got to get to the office, got to get to the job, got to deal with her colleagues, etc. How do we work in the exercise for that person?
Right. So I would say for that person, getting ahead of the chaos is going to be vital. So maybe it's first thing in the morning. Maybe it's before the kids are getting up. And even if you're not doing your movement first thing in the morning, give yourself a little grace. Give yourself an extra 10 minutes before their alarm goes off or before you're waking them up. A lot of times, how we start our day is how our whole day is going to play out. So if we start it calm and prepared and doing things, I'll throw a couple specific things out. But those trays that you see when people get breakfast in bed, God, this could be nice, right? And it has the two handles on each side. I got a set of those about 5 years ago when our son was 3. And what my wife and I do before we go to bed each night is we'll lay out everything that we need. We'll set everything up for the next morning. So that way, when we come down into the kitchen, we're prepared. All the water bottles are ready. Plates are ready for breakfast. This is here. Vitamins are here. It's not, immediately into chaos, starting to grab stuff out of the cabinets, twisting all over the place. So that has been super helpful. So a lot of us have an alarm clock in the morning. What about having an alarm at the end of the night with a happier ringtone, not, go through and find something that's a little calmer about maybe it's time to wind down and get rid of the screens. So for me, that goes off at 9 o'clock, where, I need to turn the TV off, turn off The Office for the 15th time and relax, get whatever I need for the next day. And that way I'm not subjected to that one more episode, staying on the phone until it's, beyond my bedtime. And let's be honest, a lot of stuff we see on our phone is not the most relaxing stuff. So it's important to have an alarm at the end of the night. So for that woman, it's, would the morning work for you? Is your energy okay then? Do we need to bump bedtime to be a little bit earlier, which is something that we did with our son? Again, behavior and sleep are so closely tied for kids and adults. We bumped 20 minutes earlier for bedtime and we moved him to 15 minutes earlier to wake up. And I actually take him for a hike almost every single morning in the woods before school. He's got a beautiful nature preserve on the way to school, so we make time intentionally to go there. And I mean, if it's pouring rain, we probably won't do it. If it's drizzling, hey, we have rain jackets. There's no such thing as bad weather, just not the right gear. And it's been so helpful for his behavior, for his resilience, for his mindset. It's just part of our morning routine. And sure, at first it was a little clunky, but once we got rolling with it, he looks forward to that. Some days we go to the playground, some days we go out in the woods. There's so many different things we can do there to keep ourselves moving. So it's scheduling that time. Or maybe is there a fitness center between work and school or work and daycare or whatever it is? Or maybe there's a park to go for a walk at. And hey, even if it's a half hour or 20 minutes or 10 minutes, it's better than nothing. So I encourage people always start small, figuring out what works for you. And hey, if it needs to be 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes midday, and 10 minutes in the evening, that's good too. Figure out what's going to work for you. How can you build it into, and a lot of what I focus on is helping people design a week that works, kind of setting some healthy boundaries for what is my successful sequence each week. And it can be something as small as, hey, every Thursday, one of our 2 Jeeps gets washed. So one of us goes into the weekend with a clean car. Or, every Sunday we go to the grocery store together and we focus on the perimeter because most of the stuff in the aisle is trying to kill you. It's how does a week look like for you? Where can you maybe reduce a little bit of that randomness and where can you schedule those important things?
I love that. Now you mentioned the Jeep. Again, all those daily activities are
Yep,
areas and opportunities to be intentional
that's right.
our muscle building, be intentional about our stretching, be intentional about our calorie burning.
Right.
All of those things are important. And I'll tell you something else. Uh, we talked a little bit about being stuck behind the screen somehow, either
Sure.
phones or Netflix or what have you. You know, Many times, they get those blaring commercials. I don't know if you noticed that, but all the commercials seem to be a lot louder than the actual program that you're watching. You know, Now we used to, if you have YouTube and stuff, you can kind of skip right through that. But why not take that as an opportunity to just go down and maybe just do a couple of just a bit of movements, resistance
Yeah.
training, sort of things like that. All this is
Yes.
important. just looking forward to doing that. Whatever we do, keep it as part of the fun of life. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest challenge. When we think about the perspective that we approach life to, you know, we think about work, you know, right? But oftentimes it's more about really accomplishing a task in order to create better.
Right.
We're not just working because we are dragged out of bed and put on the treadmill and we got to trudge on. All of us, if it's just trying to make ends meet, it's in order to make something better, create life
Yeah.
better. So why not incorporate things that will keep our bodies better, lower our glucose, okay, bring down the obesity factor, and create a higher state of mind, you see, for ourselves. Tell us some of your experience in dealing with, working with some of your executive clients and others that brought them into a better space of time management as well as in particular wellness.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll throw out for, since we touched on the screens and it's connected to this as well, standing desks are fantastic. And they have drastically come down in price in the last couple of years. I just got one for my office space that was $95 and it took me 10, 15 minutes to assemble it. And I chose the one with the hand crank, number one movement, but mainly it was, hey, if the motor goes on an electronic one, it's going to be stuck wherever it is. So I want the manual crank. And my energy is always better when I'm standing. My digestion is always better when I'm standing. And just to be able to stand up tall and even breathing oxygen, everything. So maybe it's a standing desk for you. Maybe it's, hey, do we have to do a Zoom call or can we do a walkie-talkie where we both talk on the phones with our earbuds on and we go for a walk together? That's something that I've been very big on lately, and it lights the other person up. Yeah, that feels good to get away from Zoom. We don't need to be doing a video call right now. We can do a walkie-talkie. So those are very important. So yeah, building in things with your health and wellness are going to be a direct correlation to your success as well. Having that ongoing progressive realization of a worthy goal is so vital to be taking care of yourself on a regular basis. And for anybody that's in leadership or has anybody that relies on you, parents, family members, friends, I mean, this is everybody. One thing that's very important, and we touched on vocabulary, it's actually selfish not to take care of yourself. You have to have self-care in there, because if you're showing up, like I talked about before, tired or hungover or hungry or thirsty, you're cheating everybody else out of the best version of you. And if you continue to do that over and over and over and over again, then you're going to be dependent upon everybody else, whether you're in a hospital bed or you can't do the different things that you like to do or what other people want to do with you. You have to take care of yourself every single day. And like, I think so many people, we think it's this big complex solution where a lot of times it's a very simple solution. Like I talked about before, and I know repetition is important. Am I eating real food? Enough of it, not too much, not too little. Am I moving my body? Am I properly hydrated with real water? Not the desserts that most of us drink for breakfast each day. Um, you know, am I sleeping right? Am I bringing the right energy to the right activities? It is so important. And I think for a lot of people I've had a chance to work with, what we do is important, and I think what we don't do is vital. I think for a lot of people, and we'll bring it back to the beginning of this discussion around the word exercise, I think a lot of people have also associated that with punishment for what I ate. Well, what if we just avoid some of those awful choices and set up some healthy boundaries where for some people, again, with diabetes, and everybody needs to talk to their doctor, and I'm not a physician, so I'm not saying this is your plan. This is a approach that works for some people. But there's plenty of people that eat from like 11 o'clock in the morning until 7 p.m. at night. And that's helpful for their sugar, and that's helpful for their energy, and that's helpful for their sleep. And when we think about in the typical American diet, what we remove if we don't eat until 11 o'clock, it's mostly garbage. There's plenty of people over the years that I've encouraged to say, what do you eat for lunch and dinner? Well, start eating that for breakfast. And, it sounds a little crazy, but in the grand scheme of it, do you want the person eating 2 donuts and a coffee full of more sugar, or a spinach lasagna at 9:30 or 9:45 in the morning? You got pretty much everything you need, right?
I could get that. I could get that. I honestly, I'm not big on spinach lasagna, but I do
That's
like
fine.
spinach.
There you go.
Spinach.
There you go.
You know,
I mean, lasagna with a spinach on the side.
you know, but the idea again, you think about really, and I get what you're saying, making those choices and making those adjustments, because
Right.
many times that's all it takes. See?
Right.
So in the coming across clients that you've worked with, for
Yeah.
instance, you deal with a person. Um, what would be one example of a client who was stressed and
Right.
didn't know what to do, and you were able to kind of jump in there and bring them to the space where they
Yeah.
what have you got an episode of in the life of Ryan Dunphy that can help
Right.
us with that?
Yeah. So I'll feature one of my friends. We'll call him Joe. One of my clients that, for Joe, is very stressed out. He was overeating. He wasn't sleeping enough. He was doing all these different things. And we sat down and said, we started to design his ideal week of what would work best for you, putting up those healthy boundaries, getting his sleep schedule dialed in, making sure he had the water bottle, all these different things. But we said, what's one decision that can prevent 1,000? And for Joe, it was no alcohol other than Friday or Saturday nights. And on those Friday or Saturday nights, a maximum of 3 drinks. Because for a lot of people, alcohol is a very big part of our society. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money off of it. And this is, again, different 2-hour rant, but it's not drugs and alcohol. Alcohol is a drug. And just because a lot of people have, it's legal above a certain age and it's been part of society for so long, doesn't make it less dangerous. And I think there's a lot of people that don't realize this term is now becoming much more widely used, hangxiety, the next day, where people are, without even realizing it, they're still having negative effects the next day, 3 days later sometimes. So ironically, we call it happy hour and we go to drink depressants. But what if in your life you made that one decision that prevented 1,000, and say, oh no, I don't drink during the week, just Friday, Saturday, for hanging out or grilling or whatever it is. Um, what would change in your life compounded over the course of a month or a year if you said, oh no, Monday through Thursday or Sunday through Thursday, it's just not my thing?
It's interesting that you went there, because people don't realize that alcohol is a neurotoxin. So you're
Right.
actually causing damage, micro damage to your brain the more
Right.
you do it. Now, full disclosure,
Sure.
I like a beer every now and then. But,
Sure.
and for me, if I had 3 cans during the weekend, that's
Right.
for me. I see that as a problem for myself. So I scale down now. Maybe I have a beer a couple of times out of the month. That's
Sure.
my life. That's not
Sure.
anybody else's life. What we're trying
Right.
to help individuals to understand is to do what works for you to build your mind,
Yes.
your body, as well as your spirit to the optimal level. Not just
That's right.
not to just the regulated RDA, not just to the average of everybody else, but the optimal level, because that's when you soar.
Right.
You see,
That's right.
that's the idea. So listen, Ryan, you're an amazing guy.
Thank you.
And I love your energy, and you know, I know that you bring a lot of value to individuals, because indeed, time is the one commodity that is the scarcest. We're only allotted a certain amount of days in our life, literally
That's right.
days in our life. And we do not have hundreds of thousands of days. We only have tens of thousands of days.
Right.
And each day that goes by, it's a greater and greater loss.
Right.
So helping individuals to manage that treasured commodity is so vital. And I want to thank you so very much for being here this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Honored.
I've got one more question I need to ask you.
Yeah.
This is a question I ask all of my guests. So with everything that you do and your knowledge of managing time so effectively, helping individuals to have the right mindset so that they can organize themselves, Ryan Dunphy, tell us, what does it mean to you to crush your mountain?
I love this question. So I'm going to reference for anybody that knows this part of the country, the Delaware Water Gap is one of my favorite hikes, and it's definitely a more rigorous hike. And I love that hike so much. And I think there's so many parallels to life and crushing it, where I see crushing it as bringing that right energy to the right activities, a big goofy smile on my face, my friends and my family around, everybody can win. It doesn't need to be competition. Let's collaborate. Let's all move in this better trajectory together. And let me get to the peak of that mountain. And when I hear crushing it, I want to get to that peak of the mountain and also be able to safely get back to the car, not to be completely out of gas when I hit the top of that mountain. So keep myself in that peak state. So that way I am safe on the ascent and the descent all day long, having fun, crushing it, making people laugh, laughing myself. There's plenty of dad jokes within here. My wife is forever cracking up and shaking her head and just, how do these things come out of your mouth? Yeah, it's just each day, embrace it as a new adventure, crush your mountain, figure out what your mountain is, and don't focus on other people's mountains. If you can support here and there, but create a trail map that works for you, create a mountain that you actually want to climb and crush your mountain.
And I'll say
Oh,
it
you're
again.
muted.
Hey, man, that was powerful. It's important. And this is a guy that loves to be out in the sunshine. I like to be out in the sunshine. So
Yep.
I get it. And there's so much packed into that because there's so much physical and emotional and mental benefit you get from being there. But we're going to invite everyone to consider what space of time can you take to make a change. Just a simple thing. If you've got some bottles full of bleach that are big size, use that just to lift them a little bit.
That's right.
Move the body, build the body, and do your best to take good care of your body. And the reason why that is so important because we have to be in a position at any given moment to move, to act, and move and act without the injury. There are so many individuals who I've met over the years who now have to suffer because they didn't take the time to strengthen or lengthen the muscles that they were born with. The old saying is that bodily training is beneficial for a little. And that's true, but that little goes a long, long way. And we have to look at that little in the context of the life we're living now, as opposed to when this thing was made over 2,000 years ago. Nowadays, people have Uber, people have Netflix or the internet, or they have other things like that, and it's more of a sedentary lifestyle. 2,000 years ago, if they needed to go take a hot bath, they had to chop wood, make fire, then they heat up the water. They had to go and pick the water up from the well. That's work, natural movement incorporated in everyday tasks. We don't have that so much here in this modern Western society. So we want to invite everyone to take into consideration moving your body, doing a little bit of resistance every day. If it's a can that you haven't opened, that you can just lift up a little bit. Whatever you can do consistently on a daily basis will help. My job is to help you get there. Our job, myself and Ryan, what we do, we help you find the time. And me specifically, I will work with you, and I do work with my clients, in order to figure out what to do, what works for you, and how you can make it fun, you see? And how we can set up some accountability so that you can reach your goal in terms of your health, your wellness. Like I always tell everybody, you have to make the doctor not your boss, but your partner in health, and you take the reins. And as I always say at this time, thank you so very much for coming. Ryan, it's a pleasure to have you. And friends, as I always tell everyone, don't just climb your mountain, crush the road. We'll see you next time.